welcome. I'm thrilled that you're here. I've met most of you in the room already, but my name is Greg Rhodes. I'm the pastor of RiverLife Church, and you guys are in a very special group because you guys are the very first attendees of the very first RiverLife Church event ever. I know. Your sheer presence here is our prize. So, yeah.
It's great to have you here tonight. Greg and I are going to be talking about something that we just believe so much in. And it saved our life, our marriage. I mean, not our life, our marriage.
She might have killed me.
That is true. So we're excited about tonight. We're going to do a lot of things. We're going to have you do a lot of things. So this is interactive. And we're excited that you're here to learn. And we're actually going to learn from each other. But Greg and I are also going to be doing a lot of sharing.
And the reason we're doing this is RiverLife Church loves couples, loves young couples, and new marriages and older marriages, and we love married couples. And so that we want to help you guys, and we want to help your friends. And so that's why we're doing this. And we'll do more of these as the months go on.
All right, so we're just going to dive right in. I want to start by sharing a story with you of when I was probably, how old are first graders, like 6? Yeah, I had my first crush when I was 6. And he looked like Greg, but he wasn't Greg. But I had this crush, and I was really nervous about talking to him. But when I talked to him, you remember he's only 6, so he turned around and he said to me, "Your breath stinks." And like that crushed me. I was hurt, and I soon forgot about liking him. But I never forgot his words. So to this day, like coming here, I had to have a mint because I'm still scared to death that my breath stinks. So, people say that sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. But really, our bones heal and our cuts heal, but those names or those things that people say to us can stick with us forever, for a long time. And more than that, they can change the course of our lives so that in every purse I have to carry mints. So words are very powerful. In Proverbs 18:21, the writer of Proverbs tells us that the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruits. So again, the power of life and death can come in our words. And so tonight we're going to look a little bit at the power of words. What gives them the power, and what do words do? So the first thing I want to tell you is that words are powerful because words create. They can actually bring things into reality. And if you recall, one of the very first things that we learn about God in Genesis 1, in fact, verse 1, right? The Bible tells us that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So it was God's words. He spoke, He said, and the world came into being. So His words were the creative force that created this reality. And so words are powerful because they can create. These realities, like my first grade crush, created the reality for me that I would always have to be worried about my breath. But words can also create positive realities. So in 8th grade, I remember my 8th grade science teacher, he gave us an assignment for extra credit, and I was the only one who did it. So the extra credit points were great, but even better was what he said to me after I did it. And he said, after reading my paper, he said, You are really smart because you know where to go to find the answers. Because he gave us a question that I had to research. And I was like, oh, thanks. I mean, I love hearing that. But what he said next was even more life transforming for me. He looked straight at me and he said, oh, you are going to go far in life. And so for a little 13-year-old, that just meant the world to me. That somebody saw something in me and affirmed it and called it out, and in some ways helped create this new reality for me. So our words are very powerful, and they have the power of life because they can create reality.
So the other things words do is words can heal. So you guys heard of the placebo effect? That whole idea of like, if you give a patient a fake pill and tell them it's a real pill, they actually get better. Because you just have to tell them this pill will help them and heal them, and they actually get better. But what's fascinating is there's actually something a little less scientifically proven, but there's actually something also called the nocebo effect. And it's this phenomenon that doctors see that when they tell a patient that they're going to die, that they have a fatal condition, a terminal condition, they actually get worse. So this placebo effect can actually bring healing, and this nocebo effect, a doctor's words, can actually bring life and death. And it's amazing to think about the power of a doctor's words. And our words are a lot like that as well. Our words can bring life and death. If you take a look at the handout there, there's some amazing passages out of Proverbs. Listen to some of these. Pleasant words are a honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Proverbs 15:4. The tongue that brings healing is a tree of life, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit. And then 12:25, an anxious heart weighs a man down, but a kind word cheers him up. Mark Twain said that I can go 2 months on a good compliment. And I think we all can. And I think that's why we all long for words that heal. And we especially long for them from our spouse.
And the third thing we want us to really focus in on, hone in on, is the fact that words are powerful because they reveal. In the Bible, the heart is the symbol that's often used to be the seat of who you are. It is where you think, feel, and your motivations come from. And so we're going to see that your words reveal what's in your heart. And what we say comes from our attitudes, those things that are deep down, hidden, that we don't think people know because it's hidden in our heart, but they reveal. So, for instance, in Proverbs 4, verse 23 through 24, the writer tells us, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Put away perversity from your mouth. Keep corrupt talk far from your lips. So again, this idea that what's in your heart can give life. It's the wellspring. And in order to do that, we have to watch what we say. And Jesus explained this even better in Matthew 12, verse 33 through 35. Jesus was talking about how can you tell if somebody has good fruit or bad fruit. So he tells us, make a tree good, and its fruit will be good. Or make a tree bad, and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is recognized by its fruit. For out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. The good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and the evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. So that means that what you say to your spouse tells him or her what's in your heart. Because sometimes we'll argue and we'll say, I really do love you, but, and then we'll say something really hurtful, right? And what they hear is actually what they believe is in your heart, because that is where it originates. And unfortunately, what we do is that we take for granted the good things that our partners do, and we don't say anything. But the moment they do something that is even a little not what you like, you'll say it. So guess what? Your partner just thinks all you have in your heart for them is negative feelings and views, because that's all they hear. However, if your heart is full of appreciation for your partner, your words will tend to be more loving and caring. And if your attitude is, my partner loves me and my partner is caring, then your words will follow it as well. So one way to fill your heart with appreciation, to change what's in here, is to also start learning how to see the good in your partner. And we call it, and then you can do, once you start thinking that way, you will start saying positive things to your partner. And so early in our marriage, I was really, really negative with Greg and with our relationship. I was disappointed. Marriage was not what I had expected. And all I could see were our problems, which meant that all I could see in Greg were his mistakes or the areas where he didn't meet my expectations. In fact, it was really hard for me to remember even why I married him or fell in love with him. But thank God that we were part of a young couples group. And there, every week, they made us give affirmations to one another. And that really changed my heart and then my words to Greg.
And it radically changed the way I communicated to Foua as well. And so that's part of why I get so excited telling you about this. Because I didn't come into marriage with a whole lot of communication skills. My family was very loving. We did wonderful things together. But we didn't really talk much about emotions. And so I walked in not really with a very big toolbox when it comes to communication. I had one tool, and that was about it. But what we learned in this young couples group when we were newly married radically transformed the way that I spoke to her and the way that she spoke to me. And what was amazing was it actually became a discipline. So at least once a week, and we were actually challenged by our young couples pastor to do it once a day. And so we're going to issue you guys the same challenge. That'll make more sense after we talk about it a little bit. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce and kind of explain what affirmations are. They're on the bottom of the handout, so I'm going to kind of explain it a little bit. And then we're going to have you guys do it and kind of see what it's like doing it. Okay? So here's a little bit of what affirmations are. So first, there's another verse out of Proverbs. Talks about words, and here it is. Okay? A word aptly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver. I love that. That's some bling right there. Okay? Apples of gold in settings of silver. That's what affirmations are to your spouse. Imagine walking home and once a night giving your spouse apples of gold in settings of silver every day of your marriage.
On a ring or on a necklace would be nice.
Giant gold chain. I like mine oversized. And that's what affirmations are. So that's why I believe they are so important to building a really healthy marriage. Right? So what does it mean to affirm? What does it mean to affirm? And to affirm simply means to speak good, positive truth. That's all it means to affirm. You're not making something up. You're seeing something that is true and good and positive. And you're saying it out loud, not keeping it to yourself. So that's what it means to affirm. Okay? And your spouse needs to hear these things from you. It's really easy to have so much of your communication about the bad stuff and the mistakes. And Lord knows, okay, if there are any other guys like me in the room, we make our fair share of mistakes. I'm tallying up a whole bunch even just today. Okay? So we need to hear affirmations. And we also need to give affirmations because, guys, let's face it, we aren't exactly all that great with talking to our spouse in really deep connection ways. And affirmations can help you do that.
And affirmations also forces you to study your partner. So in that young couples group that I was talking about, where they said, okay, every week when we come together, and we have to do these publicly, so it wasn't like just dragging me in a corner. At our table, everybody at the table would hear each couple affirming each other, which meant that I had a whole week to look for something good to affirm Greg for when we went to the group. Well, this strange thing happened where I started seeing good things because I was deliberately looking for them. And I had to then name what it was. And that took the focus off the negative things and helped me remember again that the character that God had created Greg with has always been there. But as a newly married couple, we were just adjusting to each other, and the disappointments were really about me. And I began to see more and more of Greg's strengths and really look forward to it, so that when they made us do it every night, it became easier and easier for me to do.
And for me, I wasn't necessarily giving a lot of critical words to perform. I just wasn't giving a whole lot of words. So this forced me to communicate at a deeper level, not like, work kind of sucks, traffic was bad, what's for dinner? No, I had to kind of go deeper, and it forced me to think a little harder about the emotional side of our relationship. So we got these little cards here to help you guys do affirmations. We got a whole box of them. If you want to take a couple of them, go for it. If you want to grab ones for your friends, your siblings, go for it. And there are these cool little cards here that on one half is the affirmations, and then on the other half is what we're going to talk about in the second half of the workshop. So don't worry about the one that says I statements. We're going to talk about the one that says affirmations. Keep this in your wallet, throw it in your purse, put it up on the fridge. We actually had a card much like this on our fridge for the first 3 or 4 years of marriage.
So I'm kind of going to walk you through it. Greg mentioned earlier that when we learn to communicate better, we need tools. This is a tool. Okay, at first it's going to feel like, oh my goodness, this is really rigid and we have to learn how to do it line by line. That's okay. It's a tool. Just like anything, after you've used it a long time, you don't have to really think about it anymore, and you can use the tool well. Okay? So affirmations, we want you to sit as a couple, knee to knee, and look into each other's eyes.
Okay, guys, none of this. So I really affirm you for this, what we did. No. Eye contact. Okay.
Okay, so sit knee to knee and look into each other's eyes. And we always want the husbands to lead by being the first to affirm the wife.
There's a lot of talk, and this will be a whole marriage workshop into itself. There's a lot of talk in marriages about what spiritual leadership looks like. And my personal opinion is most of us have it wrong. This is a great way to be a spiritual leader. You want to be a spiritual leader? Be the first person to say wonderful things to your spouse.
So and once the husband shares or the guy shares, then the wife will go and she will affirm. And basically you would just follow this little formula here. I affirm you for. And then you fill in the blank with preferably a characteristic. So something about their personality that you really appreciate or that you've seen in them. If you can't think of any yet, like a characteristic, you can then affirm them for something that they did that you appreciated. But oftentimes when they do something for you, it usually says something about their character as well. Okay?
So to give you an example, I want to affirm you for taking out the trash last night before trash day. Okay? That is an affirmation of a behavior. And that's okay. That's kind of B and C work. Okay? If you want to hit A work, then you take that and you ask yourself, okay, what is it about them taking the trash out? I affirm you for your responsibility for taking the trash out every week. I affirm you for your initiative for taking the trash without me asking. Kind of see the difference? One of them, you're affirming a behavior, and that's good because we all want to hear, that was great, thanks for doing that. But what's even better is, I want to affirm not what you did, I want to affirm who you are.
And we keep it short. This is not a monologue or a paragraph. It's just, I affirm you for this. Okay? And the other thing to watch for are what we call backhanded affirmations. These are the things like, I want to affirm you for remembering to take the trash out this week because you forgot the last 3 weeks.
I want to affirm you for not yelling at me so much this week. See that? It's the thank you, respect. Okay? It's going to be no backhanded affirmations.
Okay? So Greg and I are going to demonstrate for you, and then we'll give you an opportunity to do affirmations with each other.
Okay? And I'm going to keep it short. This is one sentence. Okay? Very clear. Don't be careful, because sometimes you kind of just get so into it, you just want to keep talking. But then the other person, it's really easy for the other person to lose kind of what you actually said. So you want to keep it short, one sentence. And usually the formula I like is that I want to affirm you for character trait, and then just a little bit about why. Okay, so you'll hear me. There we go. So you'll hear me do kind of follow my little formula when we do it. Okay, so knee to knee, eye to eye. We also like to hold hands. Okay. So before I really want to affirm you for your grace. You've been incredibly, wonderfully forgiving of me. Very so thank you.
Greg, I want to affirm you for your dedication to RiverLife, but also to your ideals. And I love that.
Kiss optional, but totally worth it.
All right, so any questions before we let you loose?
We do just one.
Yeah. Guy does one, girl does one.
Okay, and we won't make you do it for the whole table.
Yeah.
Because you're learning to do this. So we often find in workshops that this is the point at which a lot of people just break down because they're like, I've been longing to hear you see that in me and then say it. And so for some people, this is revolutionizing for them because they're like, you see that in me? How come you never told me that? But now that you have, like, we long for people to see us as we really are, and we want to hear the positive things that they see in us, because we're not all bad. You know, we're good and bad, and we're struggling in some areas, and we've got some areas that are really like apples of gold that we want to share with our spouse. And so we want them to see that. And so saying it, affirming it, is just speaking the truth. Because the half of the truth is, I really like this about you. The other half is what we focus on more. I don't like this about you. But let's focus on the things that we do like.
And these good things, these positive things we see, it's not like we have to make stuff up. Because we see things. We just often don't say anything. We just often don't say. So we might, I might register in my head, man, Foua's been really gracious to me lately. But I might never tell her that I see it.
And it's one of my areas where I'm like really asking God to grow me in, is to be more gracious. So if I'm doing it and He doesn't affirm it, I might think that I'm not doing it and it's not being appreciated. So why should I do it, right? I'll just keep being the way I was before. But for Him to notice and for Him to say, you know, I see it, and I see that you're doing this, it really encourages me to strive to be even better in that area and to grow and change in that area.
Yeah, so often this could be just a discipline to help, to force you to kind of push you to put what's in your head out there. And then maybe if you're kind of feeling really negative lately and you're having a hard time, then it's the discipline of rejecting the negativity and turning toward the positivity and finding that positive stuff.
And by the way, we can do this with our kids too. I do it with my dog.
Yes, we don't have kids, we have a dog.
But you can affirm your children as well and start speaking into their lives, right? Because words create realities. And words reveal what's in your heart. So if you affirm them, they're going to realize, oh, my mom and dad see these things in me, and start creating those realities. Okay?
So that's kind of the first half. That one is how to talk about good things. And sometimes we need some help about how to talk about good things. Now the second half of it, if you flip, don't worry about the big list of words, we'll hit that later. So if you flip to the second page, now we're going to talk about how to talk about tough things. How to say tough things. And sometimes things get tough and we don't necessarily communicate it really well. So back before I were dating, we dated in college, through most of college.
24 years ago.
Oh, yeah. And so we had been dating a few years, and we were in Rhode Island at the time, and the closest family member of her was her oldest brother and his family, a wife and 2 kids, and they were in New Jersey. Not that far of a drive from Rhode Island. So we decide we're going to go down. And it was the first time I ever met any of her family. I was nervous, okay? I was really nervous. I'm like, okay, I gotta make a good impression, and he's the oldest brother, so I know this. I don't know a whole lot about Asian culture, but I know that's a big deal. So I'm like, okay, let's go down, get myself all psyched up, and so we go down there, and they have 2 little boys at the time. And I walk in, and I am the largest thing in the house right now. Okay, I think I'm larger than their bookcases. And I walk in, and the boys take to me immediately. They start climbing me like a jungle gym. They call me Harry, not just because I'm Harry, but remember the movie Harry and the Hendersons? About the big, like, Bigfoot guy? Guess who was Harry and the Hendersons? Yeah, so I was Harry. And so me and the boys, we were having so much fun, and we sparked up some conversation with her brother and sister-in-law, and then we sat down for dinner. Okay? Now, and like I said, I did not know a whole lot about Asian culture. Pretty much the extent of my knowledge of Asian culture consisted of the movie Joy Luck Club. Now, it's an seriously old school movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. In my opinion, it's one of the best mainstream movies on Asian families, and especially moms and daughters. Okay, it's a tearjerker, ladies, I'll just warn you. And guys, it's also a tearjerker. So that's all I really knew. So I know, okay, I have to respect my host, and I should eat everything on my plate, because I don't want to disrespect the cook. And so me, of course, as the largest thing in the house right now, sit down, and the sister-in-law had cooked up a big old dish of fried noodle. I'm like, okay, listen, I can eat this, okay. So, and she proceeds to fill my plate with fried noodle. Because, of course, clearly a guy my size would eat a whole plate of noodle. I thought, all right. I start eating. And I'm eating away. I polish off my plate. Okay? I'm like, okay, good job. Okay, I didn't leave any food, so I told the host I really liked the meal. And so she's like, oh, here, have some more, have some more. I'm like, oh, I can't say no, but I'm kind of full. And so I'm like, oh, thank you very much. And so she proceeds to scoop another plate of fried noodle, okay? And I start eating. And I just keep on eating. And meanwhile, Poua's sitting next to me.
And I'm thinking, when is he going to stop? I'm so embarrassed.
I polish off the second plate of fried noodle. And I'm like, okay, surely she's not going to offer me more, okay?
And I talked to my sister-in-law later, and she was like, I was hoping you would say no, because we needed some leftovers for later.
And so she says, well, here, would you like some more?
Well,
Sure, thank you very much. She proceeds to scoop more fried noodle onto my plate. And I start eating. I'm slowing down a bit here. Now, I don't know if it is biologically possible for an esophagus to fill up with food, but I could have sworn I could feel noodle in the back of my throat. And it took everything within my power to eat that last piece on my plate because I didn't want to leave it, because I didn't want to insult the host, but I'm so full I'm going to hurl. And meanwhile, as you found out later, she was panicking.
Like she was like, do I have to cook more?
and then what was it, like a decade later?
Yeah.
So a decade later, we sit down and talk about this, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I could have said no? Why did you tell me that?
It was my first time bringing him home, so I didn't know that he didn't know these unwritten, unspoken rules that we have, right, in our own culture. Since then, everywhere we go, I tell him, you can't put your feet up on people's coffee tables.
I did that once.
You can't do this and that. But we can see how important communication is. And the Bible, God calls us to communicate well because he doesn't want us to end up in situations where we're like, well, I didn't know, right? So we're going to look at a couple Bible verses on what God wants us to do. The biblical call for good communication is that we use our words in ways that, number one there on your handout is, our words should please God. It should please God. In Psalm 19:14, the psalmist writes, "May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord." And remember again, that out of your heart comes your words. So he ties those two things back together again. That we want what we say to please God. A second thing is that the Bible tells us is that our words need to be controlled. We need to be in control of these words that come out of our mouths. In Psalm 141, verse 3-4, the psalmist tells us, "Set a guard over my mouth, O Lord. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Let not my heart be drawn to what is evil, to take part in wicked deeds." So again, guard my mouth and my heart. Okay, so that we need a guard on our mouths because those are where the words come out. The Bible also tells us that our words need to encourage others. That was the affirmations we talked about earlier. In Ephesians, Paul writes to the church in Ephesus, and he tells them, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." So that's from Ephesians 4, verse 29. We want our words to be encouraging and building other people up. Driving here today, there was a moment where I was like, "Greg, you need to get in the next lane because that lane goes faster." But I was like, that does not build him up. And so I didn't need to say it, and I didn't. And in the past, I would have just said it right away. Okay, but I knew that it wasn't going to build him up. It wasn't going to encourage him. And you know what? It probably would have bought us 30 more seconds. Those 30 seconds were not worth me discouraging him and making him feel bad. Okay, so our words need to be encouraging. And our words, fourth thing on your list there, our words need to improve the situation. Not make it worse, but improve the situation. Proverbs 15, verse 1 and 4 says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And the tongue that brings healing is a tree of life, but a deceitful tongue crushes the spirit." So back to that thing we were talking about, that your words can heal or they can destroy, crush somebody's spirit. So our words should improve the situation. Even when somebody's angry, our words could either make it worse or help them calm down. Okay? So improve the situation. And last but not least, the Bible tells us that our words need to be truthful. Our words, looking at Ephesians 2, verse 25, Paul again instructs the Ephesians. He says, "Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to his neighbor, for we are all members of one body." Okay, so we're all going to have continuing relationships with each other. So we need to be speaking truth to one another. Okay, so the biblical call for good communication is that our words need to please God, be controlled, they need to encourage others, improve the situations, and they be truthful.
So there are some ways, when we don't do those, there are some ways we mess up talking. There are ways we mess up talking, and there are ways we mess up listening. Okay? I'm going to kind of talk about the ways we mess up talking before I was going to take the ways we mess up listening. Okay? So first, and they're here on your handout as well. So the first way we mess up talking is we say too little. Okay? So this is, sometimes we don't know what to say. Either something's going on inside us and we're not sure what it is, and so we just don't know what to say, or we know it's kind of a trap. It's the, do these jeans make my butt look fat? Guys, if you haven't learned it, never answer that question. It's a trap. So sometimes we just don't know what to say. Okay? And then sometimes we're downright afraid of saying, be like, dude, no way, I'm walking out of here, man. I'll see you in the car, because I have not fallen for that again. Okay? So sometimes we say too little. Sometimes we say too much. Have you ever had one of those conversations where you're anxious, so you've got some anxiety, so you just start having like verbal diarrhea? Just and meanwhile this person just sitting there. Okay? You want a great example of this? Just read a Facebook rant. Okay? You're like, dude, you could have stopped like 2 sentences in, and you have to hit see more, and it just goes. You ever had one and it just goes down the page? You're like, whoa, someone seriously needs to get a control of that, because that is a mess. So sometimes we say too much. Okay? Sometimes we attack the other person. And this one is really common, especially if we're hurt. Okay? If you're hurt by something the other person did, it's our natural instinct. It's kind of that animal instinct in them. It's our sin nature that makes us want to attack the other person. You hurt me, I'm going to hurt you. And so you're not even really improving the situation or talking about whatever the issue is. I just want to attack because I'm hurt and I'm going to make you hurt. Right? Another thing that we do is we are too indirect. Okay? And so this is not saying what you really mean. Sometimes we're really indirect. And to be honest, I mean, even what? We've been in a home community for 12 plus years. I still have trouble with this one.
We've been married for 20 years. I still have trouble with this because I'm indirect.
We're sitting in bed and she says, oh, it's a little cold. Now I've learned that means go up and turn up the thermostat a couple notches. It's not a statement I'd be like, come under the blanket. That's not what, because what she really says is, can you go turn the thermostat up a couple? Okay? But what she says is, it's cold. Okay, so one of the ways we mess up talking is we're really indirect. And this one, I mean, I'll just say it. You guys are, simply because of your longness, you're at a disadvantage because of this one. Because traditional culture says you speak indirectly. You have had 20 plus years of your parents speaking to you indirectly. And your churches speaking indirectly if you've been around churches. But that doesn't help communication. What helps communication is being more direct. Okay? And then the last thing that how we mess up talking is that we're insincere. Okay? Which means we say what we really don't mean. Yeah, I love going over to visit your parents. which means, no, I don't really love going over to visit you. It's awkward. They don't speak English. I don't speak enough Hmong to be of any use whatsoever. And it's just, so I say I love it, but I don't really. So one of them is we withhold what we really should say. And this one is we say what's not really true. Okay? The classic wife answers, well, whatever, I'm fine. No, you're not. I don't think you're really fine. Okay? Because she's not. So those are ways we mess up talking. And so we've really got to, this doesn't come easy. This doesn't come naturally. We have to work at talking. And this next tool that we introduce for you will help that.
And so oftentimes when we think about somebody who communicates well, we think of the person talking, but communication is a two-way street. If there's someone listening and there's someone who's saying something, or not saying anything, but non-verbally communicating. So we're going to talk now about how we mess it up when we're the listener, when we're the person who's reading the cues.
What did you say?
Yeah, like that.
I was staring at my water.
So one of the ways that we mess up listening is where we're trying to manage our image. We're trying to appear like we either know it all or, So basically what we do is we pretend to agree. We're like, yeah, because we want to make a good impression that we're there. But really we're just pretending to listen. And this one may be because you know that, okay, we're married, so I'm supposed to listen to you. But I'm not really listening to you. Whether I'm, maybe I'm washing the dishes and I'm not really listening to you. Or I'm watching TV, or you're watching TV.
Or guys, you're on your tablet. Yeah, okay, I know. I'll do that tomorrow. Okay, or the phone.
And some of that is because we still want to give the impression that I'm doing a good thing, I'm listening to you. Okay, but we're really not. The second one I think is even more common, is that when we're listening, we can't wait to get our word in there, so we interrupt. We don't let them finish the sentence because we jump in. And partly what that comes in is that we're focused more on our own thoughts. And we're focused more on, okay, what do I need to say next? And how am I going to rebuttal that? Okay, so interrupting is a way that we demonstrate that we're not really listening.
Knock, knock.
Is there?
Interrupting cow.
Sure.
Moo!
Nice.
I didn't tell her I was going to do that.
No.
Just keeping her on her toes.
Okay, so interrupting, as that was a good demonstration.
Thank you.
The third thing that we can do is to intellectualize. So you're listening, you really did hear them, or you think you did, but you focused on what they said. So focusing on the content. So maybe you just nitpick and you said, well, you use this word instead of that word, which means you don't really know what you're talking about. So instead of hearing them to see what they're feeling and what their experience was, we pick on words, or we just talk about the thing itself. Okay, so intellectualizing. And some of this can be your personality, where you're much more cognitive, and so you pay attention, and you really pay attention to what people say, because words are important to you. And if they say the wrong word in the wrong place, that's what you pick up on, and that's what you hear. Okay, so you might have to look for that if you're much more of a cognitive person. Okay, a fourth way that we mess up listening to other people is where we assume. So I'm halfway through my sentence, and the other person thinks they already know how I'm going to finish that sentence. So then they jump right in and either finish it for you, or already say something. They interrupt because they think they already know what you're going to say. And I have to say, I'm really bad at that one, making these assumptions that I know. So early in our marriage, I would interrupt Greg all the time because I assumed I knew what he was going to say next. but I still do it. And he's gotten much better about saying to me, "I need to wait till I finish." But I've had to watch to see that I do that. I make all these assumptions. Okay. The other thing is when you make assumptions, you walk away and you think they said what you thought they said because you assumed, and they walk away thinking they communicated really clearly to you. And they have no idea that you made your own assumptions and you're walking away thinking and maybe feeling something totally different than what they meant. Okay? And the fifth thing is personalizing, where this is where whatever they say, you focus on how it affects you. So maybe Greg had a bad
You hate me. You don't love me. That kind of stuff.
That would be me, but yes. So we personalize everything they say, or like even if Greg said something like, I don't know, I'm not hungry right now, then I might, if I personalize it, I might think, oh, didn't I make lunch in time so that now, even though it's late, you're not hungry because we ate so late? You see how I personalize it? I made it about me, even though he's just telling me, oh, I'm not hungry right now. Okay, so personalizing it. So I want you to take some time to look at the two lists, how we mess up speaking or communicating, and then how we mess up listening. And I want you to have a conversation with your partner about which one of these do you think is a real problem for you? Like which of the 5 for speaking are you kind of sucky at? Or maybe 2 or 3, I don't know. And then which ones in the listening do you tend to do and that messes up your ability to listen? Okay?
This is not which one your partner is sucky at.
Right.
No. Okay. Own this.
Yeah, it's a self-evaluation and then sharing it with your partner. Okay? So take some time to talk with each other.
You all of a sudden get the these and the thous, and that's one way that Christians intellectualize, and it's one way to distance from the real issue. Is you start talking Bible and theology arguments and predestination versus Arminianism and all of this stuff. Yeah, so that's one version that isn't on the list, but it's kind of the Christian's version of intellectualizing.
Yeah, so you can probably find other ones that you do that are not on the list. Okay.
How can we fix this? What is a way to help prevent all of these mistakes and help you land more in that top section about what words should do, encourage and improve the situation, and bring hope and healing, all of that stuff, okay? And so this, again, is another tool. Just like affirmations it was a tool, this is another tool. And this is kind of a two-parter, so it's the flip side of your card. So if you take a little card, and this is talking and listening. The talking part are called I statements. The listening part is called reflective listening. And this technique, we learned this kind of in that same young couples group, our first few years of marriage. And I don't believe, this is not an exaggeration when I say this, this helped save our marriage. We might not have made it through, especially those rough first 7 years or so, those really rough first 3 years, without learning how to communicate a lot better using I statements and reflective listening.
And this particular skill, I did not have. Like to share what was going on inside my heart, to tell him what was happening. I just assumed that he was supposed to read my mind or know better. I always thought that. You should know better. Like, duh, right? And so I did not know how to share my feelings or to share my thoughts with him because I wanted him to read my mind.
And I didn't really know how to share my emotions because, to be honest, I wasn't all that in touch with my emotions. I could usually tell something was going on inside me, but I couldn't really tell what. And so this helped force me to try to figure out what exactly was I feeling at this moment. I feel bad. Well, no, let's dig a little deeper. So this tool helped me communicate and, in a sense, learn what emotions were going on inside me. So really, this is helpful for guys and girls. I think I'm probably a little bit more common on the guys model, and she might be a little bit more common on the girls side.
So for us women who are a little bit more in touch with our emotions, again, we assume our husbands are supposed to know, and they're supposed to be able to read our very indirect cues, that they're supposed to know how we feel and why we feel that way. And there are times that Greg has no idea how he got in trouble.
Guys, seriously, you ever been there? You're like, I don't know what I did wrong. I know she's mad at me. I don't know what I did.
And I'm like, you should know. I was there, you were there. You should know. But this helps us then to share and communicate what's going on inside of ourselves. And it helps the other person gain understanding. Okay? And so for Craig to hear what's really going on inside of me, I need to know that will help him understand. I cannot assume that he knows what I'm feeling and thinking.
So when do you use this? All the time. Literally all the time. Okay? Use this as often as possible, especially when you're kind of starting out with it. Okay? But especially use this when things get tough. Okay? We're 20 years in and we still use this technique when a conversation we have seems to be going nowhere. And you ever been in one of the conversations that starts out okay and then somewhere in the middle of it it begins to escalate a little bit, like 10 minutes in, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, okay, I'm getting frustrated, she's getting frustrated, and all of a sudden, and so what happens with us is when we see that, one of us will usually start out and say, what I heard you say was, and we reflect, we use the reflective listening, and that's kind of a key word to us to say, okay, put on the brakes. This conversation is heading down a bad road. Let's put on the brakes and let's communicate. Slow down and be more careful. Or one of us will all of a sudden stop and be like, okay, I feel isolated when you follow the I feel statement, and I'll explain that in a second. So 20 years in, we're still using this. That is how valuable and how kind of powerful this is. So here's how it works. Okay? So the speaker, there's a speaker and a listener. Okay? And this trades off in the conversation. It's not like only one person. It's like, I'm holding the magic water bottle so I can talk. Did you guys ever do that in elementary school? Like the talking ball or the talking stick? No? Okay. Yeah, that was a pretty lame idea. So I'm glad that disappeared then. Okay? So there's a speaker and a listener. So the speaker starts off, and that's the one in green, that says, I feel blank. Okay? When you blank. Right? And that blank, that first blank that I feel, this is probably the most important word in this exercise, because that is an emotion word. You need to share the emotion that you're feeling at that moment that a certain behavior brought out. Okay? So, and that's what the other page on the handout is. Go and flip the page. This is especially helpful for those of us like myself who aren't great with emotions. I've actually done this, and I'm not kidding about this. I've grabbed a list like this and be like, I'm feeling something. Give me a sec. And what's amazing when you do that, you're in the middle of kind of like a fight. You'll read, and then you'll scan down, and when you hit the one, you know it. You're like, whoa, that's how I feel. I feel invisible. I feel vulnerable. So I cannot stress enough how helpful and valuable this list is. Let's be honest, especially for us guys. Okay? So you say, I feel, and you insert one of these words.
I Have you ever seen the chart, the feeling chart? It's emoticons, right?
Yeah.
Just pick the smiley face.
Dude, I should make an emoji version of this.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
And then you pick the one that describes what's going on for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are words.
Yeah.
So without a more extensive list of emotions, most of us know bad, I feel mad, I feel sad, and glad. That's about it. But that just scratches the surface. So these words go much deeper. You know, okay, I'm feeling bad, yes. But what deeper emotion is there? Maybe it's like I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling disrespected, I'm feeling agitated. There are just so many words, emotion words that describe better than just mad, bad.
And we kind of call those the kindergarten emotions. Because a kindergartner can tell you when they're mad. They can't necessarily go much past that. They can tell you when they're sad, when they're glad or happy. So those are kind of kindergarten emotions. Adult married life requires a next level of emotions. And that's where a chart like this can help. Okay? Now, one of the most common mistakes that I hear people when we're kind of coaching people to do these, that they will say something like, they'll say, I feel like you don't listen. Okay? You notice there's not an emotion word in that. I feel like is basically just dropping the bullets in the gun, ready to fire someone, fire some insult at the other person. Okay? So this is not, I feel, the two words you want to avoid, and here they are, it's a dead giveaway. I feel like, and I feel that. I feel that you don't pay enough attention to me. That's not an I feel statement.
Basically, these are thoughts.
Yeah.
These are not emotions, these are thoughts. Instead of saying, I feel, you would normally say, I think that you don't listen to me.
Yeah, so these are not emotions. To do this well and effectively and powerfully, you insert in there an emotion word. And stay away from like and that. So no, I feel that, or I feel like. Okay? So here are some goals. 4 goals of this for this process.
Can you do the second
Oh
line?
yes, sorry, thank you. Okay, when you blank, and in that second blank, you want to insert a specific concrete behavior that the other person did, if it's just like one behavior, or does, if it's a reoccurring behavior. Okay? This is not the time to attack your partner for something they do, because the focus is on your emotion. Okay? I feel disrespected when you don't say hi to me when you come home. Notice the focus of that sentence is not, you don't say hi to me when I come home. The focus is, I feel disrespected. And so that's what goes in that second, is one specific behavior. It's not, I feel disrespected when you come home and don't say hi to me and then go up on your computer and play games all night. No, okay. Shorten it. Keep it focused. Okay. So, some goals. Thank you. Okay. Some goals. 5 quick goals here. Be direct. Say what you mean. This is not a time to beat around the bush. So say what you mean. So be direct, be honest. Mean what you say. So mean what you say. So you be direct and be honest. Be open. The point of this is to be able to share thoughts and share emotions. So that means you gotta be vulnerable. So you have to be open. Okay? Be responsible. What does that mean? Be responsible for yourself. You own your emotions. This isn't about the other person's behavior. This is about your emotions. And then lastly is be known. The point of this is to be able to connect with the other person.
All right, so that's the speaker. But while the person is speaking, there's something that you have to do as the listener. And we call this reflective listening. And the big goal of reflective listening is to gain understanding. Okay, it is not so that you agree with them. That comes later in your discussion. This is really the moment to kind of take a time out and say, okay, I need to listen because I want to understand what's going on for my partner. Okay, and to do that, to understand, we have to pay attention, attend fully. So give them your undivided attention. And there are nonverbal things we do that will help that. So you turn to the person. And so that even your physical language, your nonverbal language tells them, I'm listening to you. I'm focused on you. Okay? And make eye contact. Because that, again, tells them that you are, that you're really taking them seriously. Okay? And don't interrupt, right? Those things that we said earlier get in the way. Because you want to understand them, not for them to understand you at this point. And here you also want to pay attention to their words. What emotion did they use? Okay, what words do they use? Because it's frustrating when they say one thing and you interpret it a different way. Okay? So you want to listen to pay attention to the words. And then what you will do is, once the speaker, let's say it's Greg, and he shares, what did you share earlier, honey? I feel disrespected when you don't say hi to me when I come home. Okay?
And this is in the little purple box on the card here.
As the listener, I would summarize what I heard him say. And I would say, what I heard you say is that you feel disrespected when I don't say hi to you when you come home. Okay? When you start out, we want you to follow this formula almost word for word. Because you need, it's a tool. Again, you're like, okay, what do I do with this? Just do it this way. What I heard you say is, you felt or you feel this when I do this. Okay? And then you want to check in with them. So you say, did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. This is a really important piece of it because, again, we don't want to assume that we heard correctly. And sometimes we will hear the word, he said disrespected, and I might say, you feel frustrated when when you come home and I don't say hi. Did I get that right? And you'd be like, no. Okay, and then I would say, well, tell me again. Okay.
Because what happens is often, if we have emotions we've been feeling, we often interject, or we have emotions we think they're feeling, we often interject our own emotions into what they said. We kind of read into it and over it. And then we say back and they're like, no, that's not the word I used.
Sometimes also what happens is when you check in with them and you said, this is what I heard you say, you felt disrespected. It helps the other person hear.
Oh. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, that actually isn't correct. I feel lonely when you don't say hi. So notice how sometimes hearing your own words said back to you, sometimes you're like, oh, no, that's not really what I meant. Sorry about that.
Or there's more.
Yeah, or there's more, and so then you can reiterate.
Okay, and then for the listener, it doesn't end there. After you say, did I get that right? And maybe they say, yes, you did. Then you would ask them, you would invite them to say more. So you would say, is there more?
No.
Okay. And again, we use this because we want to understand. We want to slow down so that we can gain understanding. And we understand better when we ask for clarification. Okay? So the goals are to gain understanding, to seek clarification. A second goal is that we want to develop empathy. Because empathy is the ability to kind of go into another person's shoes and feel what they're feeling. So if Greg is telling me that he feels lonely, when I come home and I just do my thing and I don't even say hi to him, when I hear it and I repeat it back to him, it helps me gain more empathy for him. Okay, like if I can picture myself in his shoes, yeah, that would be really lonely. Okay. So you want to connect with emotion. Because some of us want to say, but I didn't mean to do that, right? I don't mean to disrespect you, or I didn't mean to make you feel lonely. That's not the point. The point is they did feel that way. So I want to gain empathy for that.
And it's really hard to resist reacting like that. You're going to summon all your powers to kind of bite your tongue.
Another goal of reflective listening is that it encourages further communication. Because instead of shutting them down by saying, well, I never meant to do that, you actually say, okay, now that I understand that, is there more? And tell me more. And then they might take the next 2 minutes to explain what that loneliness is like. Okay. And a fourth one is that you, as a listener, you want to be able to express care and concern for your partner. They're just sharing with you that they feel really lonely. I want to be able to communicate to Greg that I care about him because he's feeling lonely. And that I am concerned that something that I did caused him to feel lonely. Okay. So part of expressing care and concern is that you listen, and you listen well, and you listen to understand them. It is not to agree. Okay? Understanding is not the same thing as agreeing. Because really, who am I to tell Greg that he shouldn't feel lonely? He did. That was the emotion that came up for him in that moment. And who am I to say to you, no, you weren't lonely. Like, who gets lonely, right? I could argue with him on that. Or I could say, well, that was just one time that I forgot to say hi to you. But it doesn't matter. It happened, and that's the emotion that he experienced at that time. And he's sharing that with me. Okay? So just remember that. You're listening not because you want to say, okay, I totally agree with everything you're saying, but I'm listening to understand what's going on inside of you. I often use the word picture of an iceberg. I think 10 to 15 to 20% of an iceberg is what we see that comes up the surface of the water. We have no idea what's underneath, and it's what's underneath that kills people. It's not what's up here, because we see it, right? So sharing your feelings and what caused those feelings is like telling your partner what's going on underneath that they have no idea about. So ladies, your husbands have no idea what they did wrong and how it made you feel, other than that now you're mad or sad, So this is opening up to them, saying, honey, this is what's been going on inside of me. Okay? So revealing what's going on inside of you. Okay. So we are going to...
Example? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And same general rules apply. This is not something you want to be doing while one person's watching TV and one person's cooking. Not to be stereotypical, okay? But guys, you could be cooking. Ladies, you can be watching Sports Center. I don't know. But generally, this is something where you put down the phones, close the laptops, and you kind of focus. You pay attention, turn toward that knee eye to eye.
If you're comfortable, because it may be that you're escalated.
That's true.
So we'll do this where I'm at my desk and Greg's across the room. But as soon as he says, I feel, I turn to him. And oftentimes I'll walk over to him. Or we'll actually go and sit on the couch so that we're face to face. But it's understandable that you might not want to touch them at that time, because depending on what emotions you're going to share. Okay, but the goal is to be face to face so that you can actually see the nonverbal cues as well.
Yeah, so really great distinction or great clarification. So really, it's the put down the distractions. Okay, and then at least turn toward each other so you're looking. Okay, so I feel inferior when you quickly correct something that I've done without really checking it.
What I heard you say is that you feel inferior when I correct you without checking to eat you first. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Is there more?
No. And then that is there more question, that's kind of a tough one because there's always more, ladies. Okay? There's always more. But the key is with this exercise is to keep it focused on one topic. It's not that, is there more that I've done that have made you upset? Okay? We're not getting any sleep at that point. No, it's just, is there more about this topic? And then you can move to another topic with another I feel statement. Or you can switch. And then she shares an I feel statement. Okay? This one doesn't have to flip like that. Sometimes it can just be one person needs to be able to share, I'm feeling this way.
And often the conversation will then go into, here's why I feel that way, or, here's where I learned how to, this may not be about you because I feel inferior all the time with people correcting me, so that you explain more to your partner, kind of your experience of feeling inferior or whatever.
It's really my mom and dad. I walked into marriage with this, that kind of stuff. So hopefully this exercise can help lead to a productive, helpful conversation about, why do I feel inferior? Yeah, it's family and pressures and friends and jobs and whatever.
And sometimes as the listener, just knowing that what you do evokes or creates that feeling in your partner may be enough for you to say, you know what? I don't need to do that, then I can do something else. Because I didn't mean to make you feel inferior. I just thought I was being helpful. Right? And then I can say, what are ways that I can convey to you that I don't think you're inferior to me?
And guys, just to let you know, while she was talking, when we were standing up there, I was actually scanning the list to find the right word. Because I couldn't think of the right emotion word for that experience. So even me, I'm 20 years into this, I'm still scanning the list to find the right word to match.
All right.
Okay?
So, guess what you get to do now? So we want you to choose a situation that happened this past week. Where you had some emotion about it. Something that happened, something that your partner did or didn't do, or said or didn't say, that evoked an emotion in you, and it was hard for you to share it, and now you get the chance to share it. Okay? So I feel blank when you blank. What was it like for you as you were listening and reflecting that?
I felt a little guilty because I knew that it was one of my habits. It's something that could be worked on. So I felt that just that guilt that could have been.
So you heard her, and you're like, well, I don't have to do that because that hurts her, or whatever, how I'm affecting her. So it made you kind of stop and go, I need to take responsibility not to do that. Was it hard to listen?
I think it was hard to accept.
Okay.
But effective listening makes you really, like you do understand how hurt they are. Versus when you were listening before, you couldn't tell how hurt they were. But actually, when you focus on them, you listen to what they say, you can tell that the hurt is much deeper than just saying, I'm hurt.
Okay, so you understood much better.
Yes. But I said it's hard to accept.
Yeah. Okay. What we have found in teaching couples this exercise is that sometimes it's that aha moment of, oh, now I understand why you reacted to me a certain way. Because if we don't share the emotion, they only see the result of it. So if Greg feels lonely because I come home and, you know, I don't go say hi to him first, and then when I'm ready to talk to him, he's like on the computer and doing his own thing. And now I'm upset, right? I feel rejected, and I have no idea how I've affected him. I only know how he's affected me. But when he shares that with me, then I have a much better picture of what the interaction. My actions that oftentimes I don't even mean to do this, right? We don't mean to demean the other person or abandon them so they feel lonely, but we don't realize that our innocent actions can evoke or create these emotions in our partner. So you're right, then we start feeling guilty, or we can take responsibility and say, then I don't need to do that. I can come home and go straight to the office and say hi to Greg first. Okay.
Well, there you have it. Those are possibly the two most significant things in communication that Foua and I have learned in 20 years. And it has the power, and I kind of give you this challenge and this promise. The challenge is, do this daily. The promise is, it will transform your marriage. It will raise your love of your spouse. And it will raise your understanding of your spouse. And it will raise your own ability to share yourself with them.